Greetings, horror, sci-fi, and Universal horror fans. Drew here from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond, and we're finally here at October 1st, and we're reviewing the Universal classic horror movie starring Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, The Black Cat. And there's only one person I can review this movie with, and that's Mr. Universal Horror himself, Bradley Renfroe. How's it going, man?
Yo, it's good, man. And I'm happy you clarified that this is the 1934 Universal one because there's also I thought, oh God, I hope he wasn't actually saying the 1941 version with Basil Rathbone.
Oh, there's one with from 1941.
Yeah, but it's like a typical reading of the will. We'll talk about that after.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I never heard of that one. I know they made a crap ton of these Edgar Allan Poe
Yeah.
stories. There's actually, believe it or not, two versions of The Raven with Karloff, which is hilarious.
Oh yeah, but no, that was done by that second one was done by Roger Corman.
Yeah, I think, yeah, right. Yeah, Corman had a whole line of Poe stories.
Yep.
What's interesting about that Raven from the 50s, the one with Vincent Price and a young Jack Nicholson,
Oh yeah.
was that they apparently got finished with that version early, and I guess they still had Boris Karloff and Nicholson around, and they actually made another movie called The Terror.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one, and they also had Peter Lorre in that one too.
Oh yeah, okay, I didn't know that. I knew he was in The Raven. I didn't know he was in The Terror. I've never seen The Terror.
Oh no, he's not in the Terror. I was just saying he was in.
Oh, The Raven. Okay, got ya. Yeah, I actually had The Terror on one of those public domain packs. I need to watch it sometime. But anyways, let's get to the plot summary. According to IMDb, American honeymooners in Hungary become trapped in a home of a Satan-worshipping priest when the bride is taken for medical help following a road accident. Now, before we get too deep into the review, when did you first become aware of this film?
Well, it was. Well, I first became aware of the film itself when I had that Frankenstein VHS. It was those early '90s monster classic collections, and you know that part where the VHSs are just coming up on screen.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that commercial.
Yeah, it was that.
The Universal Monster Collection.
These are the titles monster fans have been waiting to sink their teeth into.
And you know what's funny? I don't think I was around when that commercial came out, or I was a little bit too young, but I love that commercial so much.
Oh, yeah. It was 1991.
Yeah, I wasn't born yet. I was born in 94, but I don't know. There's something about that commercial always gets me in the Halloween mood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And watching that made me want to watch all the Universal horror movies.
Yeah, for sure. I guess how I discovered it was when I rediscovered the Universal monster when I was a little bit older, when I started in my teenage years. Because I watched some of these movies when I was younger, but we discovered them, as a lot of you may know. So there's a documentary on my Wolfman DVD called Universal Horror, and it was a documentary that came out in like the late 90s or the mid to late 90s, and it was narrated by Kenneth Branagh. And it was that documentary that like just completely just opened my eyes to this whole world of Universal horror. And that's where I found out about, Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, all those guys. And they talked about the Black Cat in this movie, and that's how I found out about it. And then, years later, I actually finally watched it on the Turner Classic Movie Channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta say, this is a pretty solid movie. For sure.
And of course, I watched all of these on AMC's Monster Fest back when that was a thing.
Right. And I think this is definitely the most popular and iconic Universal horror movie of this era that didn't feature any of the monsters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that people tend to forget. Like, they made like other horror movies.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it wasn't just Frankenstein and Wolfman and Dracula and The Mummy. Like, they made other like horror movies with with their big
Yeah.
actors. This is kind of not necessarily like a horror movie. This kind of takes on like a film noir kind of feel to
Oh,
it.
definitely.
Yeah.
And
Um.
I somewhat relate to the main character.
Oh, really? With Karloff or Lugosi?
No, I meant like David Manners'
Oh.
character. He's a writer, and so am I. So
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So it was half of Stephen King's main characters. A lot of them are writers. Jack Torrance,
yeah,
Ben Myers from Salem's Lot, Paul Selden, Misery.
yeah. Except I'm not gonna buy a haunted hotel and try to kill my family. So
Yeah. But anyways, I really love the look of Boris Karloff's castle, and he's the satanic
yeah,
worshiping priest in this movie.
Perlsick. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the look of this castle because it's like very modern looking. Almost I almost feel like Karloff is almost like a Bond villain in some ways in this movie.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, because he has like the creepy layer, and he has like the cat that he strokes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I find it interesting that you find out in this movie that his castle was built on a land of like a famous fort.
Yeah.
Um, and I think what's interesting about that was, and this was like back in like World War One.
Yeah.
Um, which is sort of that was sort of the first or the last, I guess, like old school war where like new technology was kind of coming in. So I thought that was kind of interesting how it was like this fort of that war. And then this modern kind of castle got built
Oh,
there. Because definitely that war definitely a blend between like old school way of warfare and then new school.
and yeah, that's when you seem to watch Vetus Vertigast and uh, Hallmark Perlsick, Lugosi and Karloff's characters,
Mm.
respectively. They still have that very kind of old world mentality.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the things that I find so appealing about these early Universal horror pictures is that you have a lot of like European
Yeah,
characters. Like a Karloff or a Lugosi, a Claude Rains. So they bring a certain level of like they bring like a certain exotic like feel to it, a certain gravitas to it.
yeah,
Like you can definitely tell that these actors were taking um this material very seriously.
they were.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and that's always great to see. It's like the sci-fi kind of horror movie.
Yeah.
Also, like the line in this movie that Lugosi says to Karloff, when in regards to the castle, he says it's a masterpiece of construction built upon the ruins of a masterpiece of destruction, a
Oh,
masterpiece of murder.
yeah.
And it's the way he says that. Like he hangs on every single syllable. And he
Yeah.
and he has like a very unique way of talking. He goes, a masterpiece of murder. That's a terrible Lugosi impression. I do apologize.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about him. That's what I like about him. He's hanged on every single syllable that he says.
Mhm.
And it's the same way in Dracula.
Oh yeah, he does that in every movie. Like,
Mhm.
because in this movie, it's like, after all these years, I have returned.
Right, for sure. I do got a question. What is Lugosi's deal with the phobia of cats? I never understood that.
Um, I don't know. I guess it's some superstition. Remember, like I said, these guys are very old world minded, and sometimes the black cat represents something evil.
Right.
Yeah, and I felt kind of bad for that cat. It
Mm.
just throws a knife into it.
Yeah. It's just out of the blue. Well, and I have cats too, so like I'm a cat person. We cannot talk about this movie without talking about the famous skinning scene.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, that. I mean, of course you don't see it,
No.
but like you can just imagine what audience.
Oh yeah. Well, you can see in the shadows, like he's basically carving his face off.
Oh yeah, but I mean compared to like what we have nowadays,
Oh God, nothing is left to the imagination today.
yeah. I honestly feel like as far as like American horror goes, I feel like 9 the Living Dead was like the first like real graphic horror movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and then of course you had like Eyes Out of the Face, like a little bit before that, but that's like a French movie.
yeah.
Oh,
And the Coffin Joe movies in Brazil,
oh, when did those come out?
early '60s.
But there's this whole thing with Karloff when you find out that he's like a Satanist, like I said in the on the plot summary,
Yeah,
and he wants to do like some sort of ritual thing with like David Maynard's wife or something like that.
yeah.
And then he has like Lugosi's wife, like
No,
preserved.
that's his daughter.
Oh, his daughter.
Yeah, no. See, his wife ended up dying, and then he married his daughter.
Oh yeah, that was what. Yeah, that was kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, and you see that every night before he goes to bed, he reads the rites of Lucifer.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing that was probably talking about the whole satanic worship thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably something that mainstream audiences weren't like privy to.
yeah. And I feel like this is like there's also a hint of necrophilia in there too.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like, good God! And this came out in 1934. I can't imagine what some people were like when that.
right. I mean, Dracula's daughter had a lesbian scene in there.
Oh yeah, and oh that yeah, I knew that was definitely gonna get. They had to have known that was gonna get cut out in 1931.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently,
30
the
bucks.
scene in Frankenstein when he throws the little girl in the lake. Apparently, that was cut out of the original version.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, wow, like that's like the sentimental scene of that whole movie. I feel like,
yeah, it was.
yeah, because like it kind of tells you that he's this monster with a heart. Like he didn't know that he's hurting, that he can hurt people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you could tell that even the monster was horrified by what he did by throwing her in the water.
he's the big child. But
Yeah.
honestly, I'm more shocked by by stuff in older movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like newer stuff doesn't shock me because I
And,
feel like almost everything's out in the open now.
because of the time period.
Mm,
I mean, they actually show, because when you think about it, like because it was pre-code, they didn't show the bite. They showed the bite marks on Nosferatu,
mm.
but they didn't show the bite marks in the Bela Lugosi Dracula, but they did in the Spanish version.
Yeah, when they weren't allowed to transform from a bat to a human or like his human form.
Yeah, I know. And for some reason, they weren't allowed to show him rising out of the coffin.
Yeah, like it's just so bizarre. It's just so taboo to me.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, it was a different time, Bradley. It was a different time.
I know, but even for a different time, rising out of the coffin.
And then there's this famous scene in this movie where Karloff walks past um Lugosi's wife preserved and thing.
Yeah,
The glass. That was pretty interesting.
yeah.
Was he gonna like revitalize her?
Um, I don't remember. They never actually said. I think he just like has these wives and then they die and he encases them in glass.
Yeah. It's like a real twisted, like Mr. Freeze kind of situation
Yeah,
there.
which you got to wonder what he's doing with them, like just why he's keeping them fresh.
Maybe that's why you mentioned the whole necrophilia thing.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking. They alluded to that on there.
Yeah. I mean, of course you can't actually explore this. Um,
Yeah.
I think if you can do that right, I think this might be a good modern remake, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of explore that aspect of the movie a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, we've already had our ideas of like remakes for the Universal horror movies,
Yeah, for sure.
and I'd
Um,
want to put this in somewhere.
yeah, that'd be interesting. There are doing some pretty interesting things with the Universal monsters. They had like that Invisible Man, with I don't know if that's going to be connected to anything. I doubt Winfield's going to be a franchise. I don't know if that Ryan Johnson Wolfman's going to be connected to the Invisible Man.
Mhm.
It'll be cool though. I'm actually am looking forward to that Ryan Johnson Invisible Man. That's to be pretty interesting.
Yeah. And all I ask is, they not like, if they're going to do an actual remake, not go action and or
Hmm.
comedy. Let's just go back to straight horror.
Do you want to get the favorite part, least favorite part?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go first. What do you want to do, favorite part or least favorite part?
Um, I guess do my. I'll have to pick one from these two lists I've made.
Okay, or you can do all of them if you want to.
Okay. Well, number one in my likes category. This is one of the rare times Lugosi is the hero.
Oh, yeah, Kid always the bad guy in these movies.
Yeah. And my second like is it took some very bold steps for 1934, as we mentioned the necrophilia, the Satanism,
Yeah.
and number three, anytime Karloff and Lugosi share a scene.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not a bad group.
Yep. Oh, and number four is the design of the Satanic Temple.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. My dislikes, and this is obvious, but because I've picked on this guy before in our reviews, David Manners is forgettable in this movie.
I mean, if you got Karloff and Lugosi in a movie, you're always going to be forgettable.
I know, but he and Jacqueline Wells, they're kind of just these stereotypical newlyweds
Mm-hmm.
that you saw back in the day. My second dislike is other than the cat just resurrecting itself, there are not really many allusions to the actual Edgar Allan Poe story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are definitely loose adaptations, but I haven't read too much at Ground Post, so I don't really know.
Well, the original was about like a guy who loves this cat and his wife, and
Mhm.
becomes an alcoholic, tears the cat's eye out, kills his wife, and then the cat comes back, and the cops come over and find the wife's dead body, and that's it.
Ooh, snap.
Yeah, sounds nothing like this movie.
Right.
Yeah. And finally, my third thing, the ending. They just get out of this horrible situation and the mansion explodes and now they're just on the train just reading his book review as if nothing happened.
All right. I gotta say my least favorite thing about this movie, as much as I love Karloff and Lugosi, I want this movie with a tad bit longer, by like 10 to 15 minutes, so we can have more scenes with both of them in there.
Yeah, you can never have too much of that.
Yeah, I felt like they were kind of underutilized just a bit, like not like their characters, but like as far as like them like having scenes together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this was like if you're familiar with the movie Heat from the '90s with Pacino and Nero, like those were like the two big like crime movie actors at the
Yeah.
time, and they're like and now they're in a crime movie together, and they share a scene. Like this is like that equivalent to that for this time period.
Yeah, I know. And the weird thing, the biggest thing we see them do is play chess.
Yeah, so yeah, like in Heat at least like De Niro and Pacino had an awesome like monologue together in that film.
Yeah, and it's just like disappointing when for years we'd wanted to see what happened when Kirk and Picard teamed up, and what do? They cook breakfast together. Yeah.
But now that's a Star Trek thing. I don't really know anything about that.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then probably my favorite part is I just like the design of the castle, man. Like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
cool looking to me. And of course Lugosi's great. Just like I said, how he's He's hangs on every single word, and he kind of reminds me of Alan Rickman a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely the Alan Rickman of his time because he's another actor that really like slowly but methodically like says what he wants to say.
That's the thing, and I don't know who to give this title to because, well, I would say Karloff was the Tim Curry of his day, but I feel like that belongs more to Vincent Price.
Yeah, because he's a bit more eccentric.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who to say Karloff was of his day.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta think about that one. Maybe Christopher Lloyd, because he looked a lot like Christopher Lloyd in this movie.
Yeah.
But he's eccentric too, so that's kind of a weird thing. Now we can't talk about Lugosi and Karloff without talking about that amazing scene in Tim Burton's Ed Wood. Where they're filming that Ed Wood movie with Lugosi. And
try walking in this cold water.
no, I'm talking about the part when the fan goes up to Lugosi and he said, "I'm a big fan of you, Lugosi. I really like you as Karloff's sidekick." And he pauses.
Oh.
And he's like, "Karloff, sidekick?
Why do I feel like that actually happened?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Lugosi actually had like a seething hatred towards Karloff. He might have. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I mean, they didn't really hang out together off screen.
Right. And then Marlon Landau as Lugosi goes, "Karloff doesn't even deserve to smell my own shit."
Oh, yeah.
He goes to compare all the curse words.
Wow. And then they, yeah, because the thing is, like, you noticed in these movies, no matter what roles they were playing, even in The Raven, which came a year after this, one of those rare times that Lugosi upstages Karloff, no matter what, Karloff always had the top billing and higher salary.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the Mummy the first time Karloff was billed as Karloff the Uncanny?
Yes.
Yeah, that was like his nickname for a while.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, but now, I just love that part in Ed Wood. Like, he just hates Karloff. That version of Lugosi just hates Karloff so much that he even says, like, he didn't even deserve to smell my own crap, basically.
But like I said, keep in mind those could just be artistic liberties.
Yeah, that's a good movie. That's actually a really good movie. I need to watch that again sometime.
Yeah.
So let's do a rating out of 5. And what would you give this movie?
I would say that this is, with the exception of that ending and our two newlyweds, I'd say this is a 4 out of 5.
Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit lower than yours. I'm gonna go 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, it was a good movie. It had great atmosphere. The two leads were amazing. I just wanted more with them together.
Yeah.
Anyways, man, is there anything else you want to say about this movie before we wrap this up?
Nope. I think we've said pretty much everything.
Yeah, this is a classic, man, for sure.
It is.
So anyways, guys, thank you for watching the first episode of October Horror Movie Reviews 2023. Next week, we got a review where I'm reviewing 3 werewolf films, that being American Werewolf of London, Cursed, and then Ginger Snaps. And hopefully I'll be doing that with my good friend Jackson Harbor because he liked werewolf movies. And if you like this episode and you want to see more spooky and weird content, make sure you slash that subscribe button. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, or X, or whatever Elon Musk want to call it now, at Horror Sci-Fi Beyond. And don't forget to leave a killer comment and give this episode a King Kong size thumbs up. This has been Drew from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. Over and out. Bye.